I think we're live. We're just going to give it a second here to let all the little robots do their jobs. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. I'm Adrian Park, and with us today, we have two people in addition to me. First of all, he's a roofer. He is the founder of Contractor AI. He is also a system whisperer and power CRM builder, and also citizen of Toronto, Jay Carter.
All right.
And with us today, which we're real excited about, is Johnny V, who is has a tiling business, tile contractor, 23 years. I think I'm getting that right.
Yeah.
And also joining Jay and I and other contractors in getting out there and talking about some of the stuff we're passionate about. Also has a podcast and a business called Modern Contractor, where he's working with contractors around mindset and other things that, frankly, we all need. So welcome to the live stream, Johnny V.
Happy to be here, gentlemen. I'm a Toronto local as well. I thought I should mention that. Also a Toronto local.
Shout out.
It must be said because I'm absolutely proud. Glad to be here, guys.
It's the Canadian vibes.
Canadian vibes on the live stream today.
Yeah.
I'm not that far from you guys. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. So if you do like an S around the two lakes, you'd be here in about 3 hours and 10 minutes. So we got an interesting conversation today. And I think this is going to be fun because I think Johnny is going to have a lot of things to share or to add to this conversation. But one of the things that I think, first of all, as a small business owner, it's having 14 jobs, wearing 14 hats, and constantly the barrage of like there's always a fire hose or three pointed at us, and it's even more, I think, difficult for contractors because let's be honest, like we are to survive, you have to be a jack of all trades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just go out, particularly early days, you can't just go out and hire all the things you need, right? You got to do them, right? That's why family does the books and different things, or a brother or sister.
Common symptoms.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not wrong. It's necessary. However, one of the things that I found, speak from my experience here, that I found as the business I was running went from really immature and having huge cash flow problems, which Jay and I talk a lot about on the live stream, to a growing and expanding and to where it was actually valued at almost $5 million. It's like that transition from I do everything to now people do not everything, but a lot of the things is challenging. Mm-hmm. And because and I speaking from my experience again, but Jay, I know Jay will probably agree with this, and you probably will too, Johnny. I'm confident I got it wrong a lot more than I got it right. However, I did get it right in the end, and so it's tough to particularly with selling, right? Because I don't think that I'm just taking a stab in the dark. I don't think that most contractors are like super salespeople, right? I think they're great contractors, and that I put myself in that category. However, you have to be, right? You've got to be good. I mean, if you want to keep working, keep your people working. So, so we're going to talk about like some, kind of like part of that journey, and and maybe both of you, because you both still have current businesses, can maybe like kind of weigh in on this, on going from like I do everything myself. I put the quote together, I send the quotes, I call out the quote, I meet with the customer, I get them to sign the contract, I get the work order, to
Yeah.
like what that, so how that changes as your business changes, because you're both in a position with, Johnny with your tile business and Jay with your roofing business, where it's not, I mean, you guys are on the call today, you're not calling on customers to get them to sign quotes, sign contracts. So so let's talk about that a little bit, and because Jay, in your business, I mean, I can speak to that for a minute. I mean, you haven't sold contracts like, I mean, like where it's like your primary, for years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have salespeople, you have people that, but it's not just salespeople.
That's right. And we're going to get into that one. That's really important.
Because again, there's, I mean, if you're doing, I mean, if you're doing $1 million or more, you probably have, you at least have a part-time estimator, maybe a full-time estimator, salesperson. And then of course it scales up, so, but, that's, I think, the thing that I think, the mistake that I know I made was, I mean, at one point we had 3 full-time estimators and like 2 part-time, and we were doing, just under $5 million. But, looking back, that we didn't need, that was too much, right? That was too, and it costs a lot, right? You're paying those people well.
Huge.
So, so what's, for the, because we're talking to, in Johnny, for your benefit, the folks that are checking us out on the live stream and ending up coming into our groups on school and in Facebook, are, a lot of them are men and women running contracting businesses that are, on the low end doing $1 million, $2 million, and on the high end doing, 10, 12, 15, 20 million. So, so let's help the folks that are like, they're in that transition, like between, 1, 2, and 5, and to not make the mistake I made, where now you have this bloated sales staff and all these people, and literally paying, probably 3 times too much, for those positions. What are some solutions that, that we can give people?
Yeah. So let me jump in on this one real quick. I get the privilege of seeing many businesses across many different sectors, and Contractor AI, we get all types of different businesses we get a really good look in at. Been in sales, I would identify myself as a salesperson before a roofer now these days. I feel like I'm a sales marketing company. I'm not even a roofer. I kind of shed that identity a while ago, but I can vividly remember what it took me to get there, and I want to share that. So one of I think the big mistakes guys make when they're starting out, and it's pretty common, is to assume that the first position that you should delegate or get rid of is sales. And I'm saying that's generally not great for a brand new business, because you have an intimate understanding of your business and your offer. And it's very important that you're building relationships that are going to last. Okay. So I hear a lot of guys, and especially like guys that are really, they want to stay on the tools and stuff, that think they're just going to hire a sales rep and that will be the answer to their problem. Unfortunately, I don't see that work out a whole lot. And for a couple of reasons. Number one is the structure is not there for a salesperson to be successful within. So meaning, good salespeople, iron sharpens iron. They need to have continuous training, improvement. They need to have clear understandings of offers. They need to be, again, especially in the beginning, well onboarded, well supported. And what I find a lot of times is that we have this mystical view of salespeople, that they are, they're out there with a bag full of magic words. And where that gets most contractors into trouble is they find out very quickly that, without these things in place, we're underpricing, we're underquoting, we've got the wrong ethics involved, right? So again, it takes a lot to lead a sales team. It's very easy to have a sales team go off the rails. If you can imagine a bunch of kids in a room, All right, where we just let them run around and terrorize things. That's what I imagine when I think of the sales team. But you've got to keep your boundaries, right? You've got to have a good structure. So the easier solution in most cases, okay, is owners are feeling overwhelmed, but if you really look at their time and you look at what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and it's a funny conversation to have, is that they're looking to delegate the sales part, which is actually the part that brings them 80% of their results. And in order to save, basically being able to run around and put out fires, which is like 20% of the results. So, I kind of scratch my head at that. I'm going, well, listen, how about we get a little bit more organized internally? Let's maybe take some of the administrative stuff that is involved in a sale off your plate. Okay. So that allows you to actually show up, be present, and make better sales. We invest more in becoming a better closer. Now, you notice I use the word closer, not salesperson. Right. Because there's a very, very big difference between a salesperson or someone that's selling and a closer, okay? A closer to me is the person that starts at no, knows how to deal with objections, and gets the contract signed, right? So a lot of times that can be the owner if properly trained, if properly supported themselves. And then if you really do plan on expanding and your business, involves having closers or involves having a strong sales aspect to it, you need to start with yourself. All right. You need to start. That's ground zero. Again, I can't tell how many books I've read, how many, training programs I've taken. I am to this day in coaching for sales. Okay. I still do active role plays. I still work on this skill because for me, it doesn't matter what business I'm in. It doesn't matter what thing is going on in the world. I will always be in demand because of that skill. Right. So, and sales actually, again, it is a skill set. So I think most owners, if they're on the operation side or they've been heavily in the production side, I think they really suffer with making productive sales. And a lot of times they have problems with asking their price and all of those things. So, there's a lot of easy fixes for that because they do have the confidence in what they're selling, which is the most important, right? Yeah. And I think where they really, again, suffer, and most of our clients do, is their time management. Let's talk about a role that you could bring in that would solve a lot of problems. And if you still want to delegate sales, it's going to make that a lot easier. So we have what we call an in-house sales team. Okay. An in-house sales team for us consists of an estimator and an appointment setter. Okay. An appointment setter is your general CSM or customer service manager. And what they're going to do is everything that goes on between the time of getting the quote ready, taking the calls, organizing, scheduling, notifying, all of those things get done by the in-house sales team. They produce the quote. They take care of any of the details. They organize the sales rep, and I've got a closer going in with a contract in hand to get signed. Okay. That's the way we roll. That's the way we play the game. We already know that, again, in general, salespeople are not known for their organization skills. So we want to bring in people that complement them, support them. Okay. And I also know that most owners, entrepreneurs and contractors out there are not organized with their time. So the more important role for them to fill is actually, teaching the skills of appointment setting and CSM to somebody that can, organize their day and take those phone calls off their plate, take those lower level tasks that allow you to really spend the time optimizing. Because if you were to set yourself up first to take advantage of a closer or an in-house, outbound sales team, how many appointments do you really think you would take in a week, right? Are you doing 10, 15, 20? When you start to consistently do more than that, that's when it's time to bring in a closer, and you've got the environment for it. You've got the structure for it, for someone to come in and be very successful. More importantly, the most important part about this is in sales, it tends to be the case is salespeople, very good closers, again, they move around. They're, the average life of a closer is about 2 years. You don't want to be caught in a position where you don't have the skill sets yourself to maintain that after that person may have left. You also want to make it so it's easy for someone to come back into that business, pick up where that person left off, and that you're not left, with a big hole in your business that's leaving you with a liability. The last thing I'm going to say, I promise, and then I'll pass the baton here, is learning how to keep, like I said, learning how to draw boundaries for your sales team. And if there's ever a place, if there's ever a single place in your business that you're going to apply data, it has to be in sales. And I'll explain to you exactly why really quickly.
Okay.
A good closer, all right. You got to imagine that in order to be successful in that field, you have to be competitive. You have to be hungry. You have to have an extended drive. I often refer to them like good closers as like business owners that don't want responsibilities, right? Because it's a pure hustle. It's a pure like there's the up and down roller coaster. Like there's a whole bunch of things. But what guides a sales team, and here's a sales manager me speaking, is you have to be very clear what the expectations are. You have to know your numbers. All right. You can't be, allowing salespeople to undersell things. Of course, that's 101 stuff, but you've got to be able to set a target with your sales team and then hold them accountable for doing it. So we're talking about closing ratios. We're talking about sets, and then have the support when someone's falling behind, when somebody's not, meeting that expectation. You've got to either have a senior salespeople in place that are going to make them, rise up, or yourself. You got to be able to do role plays. You got to be able to find the problem that they're going, because it could be literally, I've had it come down to, one sentence that they're saying during their sales conversation that's just throwing everything off and not allowing them to get a close. There's a lot that goes into the mindset of a salesperson as well. I feel like it needs more respect to be given to it, especially if you're going to do it at a very high level. I know that the challenges is to, sell a contract at, double what the market is asking and, actually get that deal signed versus somebody that's going in there and just competing at a commodity price. That is the difference that we're talking about here. That is the gap. That's a premium business versus the guy that won't be around in 2 years. Right. So, anyways, that's my rant. Hopefully it's not too hard to understand.
No, I think, so again, you've gone through that transition, Jay, and, gone from where you sold every single contract to you had help. And now here we are, on the live stream, and you're doing this, and you're not,
Right.
it's rare that you sell a contract. So Johnny, and you're here too. So maybe you can tell us like a little bit about, or tell our, listeners, like, so how have you, gone from, the guy that does everything to now you're, again, clearly you've found a way to get some time. So, maybe you can like speak to that a little bit and help the folks that are listening today, that are trying to get there.
Yeah. First of all, I thank you for the question. In the future, if I may say, I'm never going after Jay again. If he gets to speak first, because there is not a single thing he didn't cover. So you left no room for me, man. But that's just a note for the future. One thing I kind of wanted to get into, I want to answer your question, but from just to speak a little bit more, if I could even add to what Jay said, is that the whole idea of a company being front heavy before, and when I say front heavy, it's just really sales heavy before they've even really built out the culture. Not even so much like the company's, like strategic and structure, but even the culture for these salespeople to follow. Because like you were saying, it's like letting a bunch of children on the loose, and like, you created like the perfect visual to it, because it's almost the way it feels like. You're just letting a whole bunch of children out there to close sales and make an absolute mess for you, especially if you don't have the structure there. And if you don't have, like you're too front heavy, that's like leaning forward and hoping to God your feet are going to catch up to your body. And they will. It's just the question is, are you going to like where you end up? Because the last time I was leaning forward, hoping to God my feet caught up to my body, it wasn't good. Mind you, it was late at night, and that's a whole other story. But just the idea of being front heavy, but the culture, like, let's speak to the culture, because that's like really, really important. And that's probably the only subject that Jay didn't even touch on, is the vision on the culture. Like, there has to be, a lot for a company, small and big, built around the culture and what the vision is. And the truth is if the salespeople aren't doing what you expect them to be doing, it's not a sales problem, it's a vision problem, right?
Okay.
And that is like, that has a lot to play with, like you were saying, Adrian, starting on the tools, working your way through, making mistakes, doing all these things kind of is almost necessary in a way, in my point of view, because it earns you the perspective, right?
Right.
And the right to build something bigger. It creates that foundation that's so important, and you start to, you're able to create that culture and that vision. Now, once you get to a state where, like Jay, what you're saying is like, really sophisticated stuff, very simple, but sophisticated stuff from a perspective of somebody who's on the tools, that's still, figuring it out and getting walked all over by customers. And, we're talking about companies like, that are generating, $1 million, $2 million, to companies that are generating $15 million. But I think it's fair to say, companies that have maybe 3 and less staff versus companies that have 8, 10, 12, 20, right, administrative staff as that kind of, growth scale, because 80% of the companies out there fall under that category of 3 and less.
Correct.
Right. And what we're trying to do is like, how can we incubate that, those, because they are the meat and potatoes. They're the heart of the entire industry, right? How can we give them the tools and the know-how, and the perspective without the pain, right? That Jay went through.
Can I ask? So Johnny, can I
please?
Can I ask you? So I know how I did that. I have a pretty good idea. I know a bit about Jay's business. How did you do that? Like, how have you done that with your business in terms of culture and like your people, your salespeople?
Well, I mean, like a lot of it has to do with relationship. I come from the idea of relationships are everything from sales to company structure. Building the relationship with my team, with my customers, and the loyalty allows things to work in a clockwork way on its own without having to impose yourself on every single aspect of your business. So really, like the role of the leader isn't to get involved in everything. It's to be able to delegate your tasks. It's kind of like, and in the construction industry, we have that idea in our head, or a lot of people do, is like, the only way it's ever going to get done is if I do it myself.
And as soon as they do it, it's over. Like, you've just cut your leadership. You've cut anybody that's going to be a leader for you. It's shooting yourself in the foot.
So yeah, it really is. And to answer your questions, like how do I do it, or how did anybody really do it, is first learn how to delegate and trust people. Like the only way, and I come from a little bit of a stoic mindset and that sort of thing. But the only way to have control over everything is to surrender control. Truly. Right.
Absolutely.
And to build the culture. And it is hard. It is hard. It is a bit of a leap of faith, and you need to just do it to understand how it's done.
So do you have a couple of examples, or at least one, like in your business where you've, maybe something you struggled with, like where you had a hard time giving something up?
Yeah, relationships with customers, like that's a huge thing, because that's what it is. I mean, at the beginning, my business, I am my business.
You are your business, right?
It's a glorified job in a way, right? Like nobody's coming in to buy my tile company, because if I'm gone, it's gone. Like there's no tile company to buy, right? But giving up the relationships with the clients and introducing, it took a lot to have. And it continues to take a lot to have faith in the team that I have, that they're going to be able to represent my business. I think what it all kind of came down to is that if I could have a good relationship with my team, then I need to be able to trust them in their own way to have a good relationship with my customers. They don't have to be me. Right. I guess I had to fall out of love with myself and just kind of like just from the outside looking in and be like, they're perfectly fine the way they are. Is that my job is just to make them better versions of themselves. I don't need to make anybody like me. Right. And they will just naturally, because they're likable, they will naturally have that charisma. If I help them, they'll have that attractive personality, that ability to seduce. And I don't mean in a sexual way, obviously, but the art of seduction and the art of not giving a fuck, and all of these things that I go on pursuit out there trying to acquire this knowledge, that now I have the responsibility to pass that on to my team and just trust them to manage relationships with my clients and make them their clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was going to say that I think, it is one of the hardest things to do, to let go. I mean, which is ironic because you think letting go, that the whole concept sounds easy, but it's simple, but it's not easy. And I think too, like one of the experiences I continuously had over the last 3 years was, like I knew that I knew that I could do these 14 things really well because I was doing them well, and I had this. I thought, well, nobody's going to do this as good as I can or am doing it. And the two things happened when I started to delegate and started to let go. One, people did it better.
Yep. And that's what you're
And
afraid of most
two,
of the time.
right?
That's
right.
true, isn't it?
And
Right.
two, when they may have not, when they didn't do it better, they were still effective, and that was okay. Right.
That's
Because I was still getting time back, and I
Right.
invested that time in things that like created a multiple of growth. So I think that, but you hit on something about like culture, and I want to just like stay there for just a quick second, because again, with Jay's business, they have an incredible culture there where people come and they don't ever want to leave. Right. I know what I built in the Mason restoration business where, like my men, like they wanted to see me. Right. I mean, I got fist bumps when I'd come onto the job site. And like there was real connection with my men, and that's probably the thing actually I missed the most, frankly, about not being out of the business, the contracting business. So maybe like and so the way I built the culture was very similar to what I think you're saying, which was I was like, look, I used myself as an example, good and bad, more bad than good. I'd be like, okay, I fucked this one, so let's not do it this way. Right. I did this way. I blew it. Here's how bad it was. Here's how I think we can make it better. And so I basically threw myself, at the mercy of the court again and again and again. I mean, I'm talking about shop meetings, like with the men, and would say, look, I blew it. I did the wrong way. And so we can't, we can't do this. And so I think because I was so like crazy transparent with them and so honest, that I earned respect, right? And of course we were winning a lot too, that helped. But like, again, maybe you can so when you talk about relationships and what have you done there, like with your people, again, to where you could be here on a Friday and your business is running while you're on our live stream and doing your podcast and building this other business?
It's a tough one to kind of resolve quickly. Like, I mean, obviously relationships take time. How do I build a relationship? It's almost no different in doing this in your business is the same like doing this in your family at home, right? There's certain principles that you apply, like blame is not allowed. Like just certain things that are just not allowed to happen. Be vulnerable, right? And it's okay if I'm vulnerable in front of my team, because they see that human side of me, but they also see how I behave and how I react. Managing my own emotions and my intelligence around that. It's really, a lot of it has to do, and I hope I'm answering the question, with the way you have discipline in yourself and the way you project that out on your team and the way you expect to receive that back from your team. Once you have that, which takes a little bit of time to develop, and again, it's no different than it is at home with your family, right? Is that what you're doing is creating a family, and that family is the culture. That's something that you're building, is something that nobody wants to let go. They don't want it to die, right? So everyone takes that responsibility to sustain this thing that we created together, right?
I think what I hear you saying is you created the culture by being
by leading
an example of the culture you wanted in your business, right?
Okay, I guess it can be articulated in one word. Sorry, leading.
There you go.
Well, no, I get to listen to you and just like try to read back, but that's what. So you're saying you became it, and you have become it, and then you your people follow you. And and again, I think when we say culture, I almost don't like that word, because we get all these like weird like meanings on it. Everyone's got a different
I
thing,
just
and
think of a
it
cult
sounds
immediately.
bullshit.
I don't know
Well, I
why.
mean, it is. It's like it is kind
Right?
of a cult.
Well, then why don't we use the
Um,
word vision?
Yeah.
Because it's some
sure,
kind,
yeah,
it
It
kind of
is.
right.
plays, right?
Yep.
It's vision is the destination, really,
So
right?
so can I add something in here? Just again, um I love what you're saying. I agree with absolutely everything you're saying. I only the one thing that I'll say, as your business gets to a certain point, it has to be beyond you. And for it to be beyond you, you have to hire people that you don't like, or maybe that you don't agree with, or maybe that don't. And you know what story I'm going to share with you, but like, for
Is this from personal
it's
experience, Jay?
well, it's a tip for it's really a tip for guys that are headed down this pathway. And I know we got contractors of all different sizes, but a lot of times, I see it to this day, and I see it. We're working with big contractors that are still making the same common errors, that they'll hire a salesperson, and I'll ask them, like, what was the reason behind like you making that hire, or making that, adding that person to your team? Why did you like what was your connection to that? Like, why did you think that that person was going to meet the culture and the everything that you'd built? And oftentimes I get the answer of, well, I don't know. And then when we really dig into it, we find out it's because that person's like him or the owner, and they're picking people that they trust, or that they
Right.
think they understand, so they can control. And I can't help but stress this the most. Some of the most terrifying experience I've had in business is hiring somebody that's way better at doing something than me, and not knowing
Right.
not knowing how I was going to fake it, right? And I learned a lot from those experiences, and one being that my until you've actually played a high level role, like if you've played high level sales and you can say, hey, I've sold $5 million in a year, or $6 million a year, when you encounter somebody like that, oftentimes you immediately shut down and start giving yourself reasons
Right.
why they're
Right.
not the right person, when the whole
Right.
time it's there. And I've
That's
literally,
right.
I call it meeting yourself, right? Is that when somebody exceeds what your skill sets ever were, there's this new gray area, right? And I'm here to say, like, that's what we should be searching for as contractors. That's what we should be looking to fill these roles. You don't want to fill the role with somebody that's just mediocre, or but I think a lot of guys actually are more about controlling. How am I going to control this person? They hire down instead of hiring up, right?
Yeah.
And I certainly made the mistake in operations. I mean, I have a great operator, great foreman, great project managers, like, trades guys, even like, just wildly better than me at those things. And I was okay with that. It came to a point where that's absolutely okay. I think a lot of guys, though, when they're in that growth phase, they get threatened by those things, right? And back to what that has to do with culture is, that the culture that you need to be bringing to the table is consistent growth, consistent
Yeah.
improvement,
Right.
consistent getting better. It's only the cultures that become stagnant and become you know um negative are really those ones that don't offer opportunity for anyone to move up, or anybody to
Right.
grow or expand or try new things. And that's really, again, that's where leadership versus management comes into play, right?
Right.
Well, and I was going to say, just to kind of go back to you, Johnny. So, what I get, I'm listening to you, and what I hear you saying is, it sounds like you got yourself, I'm going to say right, which is not the right word, no pun intended. But you got yourself to where, like in here, like you had a lot of like you had the vision, right? You saw what you wanted. It sounds like you knew the person you wanted to be, right? And so like you got like your mindset again. I think we overused that word and bastardized it, but like you got like you got this like in a place where you had the capacity to do some really cool things, and obviously a vision for more, running. I mean, because again, it's a small group of people in North America that US and Canada, that are full-time contractor, have a business and can also like actually run a podcast, because it's a lot of work, folks. So and you've got a hard out here in a few minutes, so to maybe throw it back to you before you jump. So like, if you could maybe speak to that part, like again, what you did, how did you get yourself? And I realize it's a big question, but how did you get your mindset right to where you could let go, which helps you to scale, which is now, put you in a position to like have a side business essentially.
Of course, and it's a great question, because this is a part of what the modern contractor vision, this community, is really all about. It's about that self-awareness, really focusing internally first. You cannot possibly expect to influence other people in a positive way if there's things that need to be resolved within yourself, right? And it's a constant growing effort, and you cannot do it alone. You do it with the people around you, and over time you start attracting the right people around you. So, I mean, first things first is to surround yourself with a community of people that are of the like mindset. And that means even within your industry, there is no competition out there.
Nope.
I mean, there is, but there isn't. Like, we're all comrades in a way, right? Like,
I got a good one for you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Competition only exists at the bottom.
Oh, I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah,
it's true. And it's true. Competition only exists at the bottom. Any contractor that's, you're like, I have never thought in my life of, and I mean it in the most sincere way, that I had competition. I never felt I would work with my competitor before I would think of them as a competitor.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. And that went away when I found myself to be unique, right? And actually found myself as a human being. And now, I mean, like, to answer your question, it's, you go on that journey of self-discovery, right? Which is an ongoing journey. There's no destination. It's just constant, right?
Yeah.
And you learn through teaching, right? You learn through leadership, through helping others grow. So the goal is to help everybody become the perfect version of themselves, the better version of themselves. The introvert to become the best introvert that he or she can be, right? The extrovert, like, everybody has a personality, has a place in this family that you're trying to create, right? So rather than trying to make, nobody's good at everything, but everybody's damn good at something, right? And discovering that in the people around you, that's the culture. And I mean, the difference between culture and vision, culture is I guess, without butchering the definition of it, right, is is the act of being, of awareness of the group, right? It's the inner code, right? That's what you're trying to develop. Yeah. Vision is out, right? My job is vision as the leader, right? Culture is the job of the organization. Without the vision, there is no culture.
Well, I think the culture follows it kind of. I mean, if you're actually living the vision, the culture sort of follows that, right? So if you're actually doing what you're saying and your vision is real, it's not just like a tagline, then I feel like the culture sort of like follows it. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
so I feel like culture is, I mean, I've thought about this a lot. I'm going to just say the definition that helps me when it comes to culture is just basically, it's like culture is a relationship, and the, kind of like feeling among a group of people or a team, right? So instead of it being one-to-one, like a relationship, it's sort of like all that dynamic between a group, and that's kind of the culture,
right?
It's like,
and your
how
team
that group interacts and shares, and whether they work together, whether they're productive, whether they fucking stab each other in the back, that's your culture. And so it's how those people interact and how you interact with them. And I think it's informed by us, like the leaders. If we're stabbing, if we're stabbing people in the back, and if we're a-holes, and then
you're right,
it follows, we're our own worst enemy. And of course,
people can smell bullshit from a mile away.
Right.
They can smell it off you if you're not acting it and being it. And this is why I apologize for interrupting, but I just want to iterate
conversation.
Yeah, I guess so. We interrupt each other all the time. I guess it's the community that you surround yourself in. As contractors, we need to rely on each other. We need to be able to be in a community of other like mindsets. We cannot do it alone. This is a very lonely road in a way. Yeah. You don't have anyone to celebrate your wins with. You don't have anybody to, learn from your losses. Like, we have each other, and that's why community is so important within and outside, right?
Yeah, and I mean 100% on what you said about it feels lonely, and that's actually how Jay and I met, because I was looking for like other contractors that weren't, people that wanted to grow, people that wanted more out of the business. And I'm just to go back real quick and just to come back to something and piggyback on something you said about culture. I think that too, and this was a hard one for me. But like, you know, the things that we hate the most about our company cultures, like the way our companies, way our people are, and is a reflection of us.
That's
because
it.
our culture is a mirror. So the
100%.
thing that you don't like, you are the chokehold, not anybody. It's not the employee. It's not the guy you hired or the lady you hired. They're not working out. It's you. Right. So I think, like taking, to your, again, kind of going back to what you're saying about mindset. I think also when we take ownership of, because you can take ownership of both. Like if you've built a culture and there are things about it that you're proud of, you get the credit. If you're the leader, you get the credit, right? And so take a pat on the back, take a lap. The things that you hate or the things that you don't like or the things that are constantly being a pain in your ass or costing you money, you got to look in the mirror. It's a mirror, right?
Right.
So
when really, yeah, please go ahead, Jay.
So tying this back into sales, again, can't agree. Like everyone's wicked points. I'm glad we're having this conversation. But there is one side of sales that I think is important to bring up, and in terms of how we manage a sales team versus how we manage staff or employees, there is a very big difference. I mean I could sit here and not say it, but like you're like what ends up happening in most businesses is your sales team ends up operating in like a silo. All right. Almost
Right.
kind of kept away like the ugly sister in the company, right? And there's a great deal of, I think, stereotypes that are tied to salespeople and misunderstandings. Like again, that they're like kind of the sleazy sales rep guys and stuff like that. I feel
Can I
like
interrupt you real quick, Jay? I'm
Sure.
sorry. Can I interrupt you real quick? So, John, you've got a heart out, right? You've got kids waiting for you.
Oh,
Oh, I hope you guys forgive me. Yeah, because
Yeah,
when
no,
Jay
I just
starts
wanted to-
talking, I just want to listen.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
there's
no.
so much.
So I'm sorry, Jay, to interrupt you, but like, so I just really quick before you jump though, because so Johnny's got to go, folks. Maybe he'll come back and hang out with us again sometime. Real quick, so if somebody wants to check out your podcast, it's Modern Contractor, where podcasts are.
That you can find, you can find me, Modern Contractor.
That easy to find you, just
on
Modern
YouTube,
Contractor.
anywhere that's where you find me. Just search Modern Contractor. I'm the only one out there.
Only one. Modern Contractor, Johnny V. Thanks for being with us today, man. Hopefully you'll come back and hang out
I
with us
loved
again
being
soon.
here. I can't wait.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thanks, gents.
All right.
Cool.
Sorry, Jay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. He just
no, it was a good call. I didn't see the messages.
Yeah, all good.
I could see him typing. I didn't see him.
It's all good. That's why there's two of us. All right. So go back to what you were saying.
So I think again what I wanted to express here is that it's very important that if you can harness your core values around your sales team, all right, what we're going to find is that a lot of areas in your business are going to improve, right? If we start in that first place, like what we're saying, because you got to remember that's your front line. That's the messages that get sent to our customer, and a lot of what's tied into marketing. I feel like a lot of teams' culture is damaged before they even get a shot to, they're coming into a bad situation, and that may be a sales marketing issue that puts them, puts a product or puts a service in the wrong place. And again, the worst thing they can do is be successful at it, right?
Well, it's I mean, we got to remember that we use the word representative, like that's used for that they represent us. Yeah.
Well, and they also have what I'm trying to say here is they have the most influence in your company, right?
Right.
If you think about it, they're hired to do this. Influence on the owners, influence on the customers.
Yeah.
And I think for owners, there's a discomfort that comes with that, right? When somebody's actually very gifted at persuasion, there's also a risk. I've seen it happen lots of times where, entire sales teams have persuaded the owner to just do dumb things or can't, not
Right.
see the reality. And where I'm getting with that is, after managing so many sales teams and seeing so many things, I learned not to I learned not to fall for their skill sets and listening to exactly what they're saying. I make the
persuade you.
boundaries right.
Right.
It comes down to this: you lead your sales team with boundaries, and that's what they want, right? And you also make sure that your core values and what Johnny was explaining are being demonstrated to them, because again, they're
Right.
looking for leverage. Their job is to negotiate. Their job is to sell, right? So like, if you're giving them leverage and you're saying, yeah, go get this, and they know you maybe can't deliver that or anything, you got to really take a step back and understand that, just because what they're saying to you doesn't really, and you're not actually doing the thing, it creates this, this disconnection, right? And I see it in a lot of companies where, like I said, then you've got the sales team being in a silo, you've got production, over here, the two are not connected, and that is a, for most mid-sized businesses, that's your death loop, right? As soon as that starts to happen,
Yeah.
it's a hard fall.
So one of the things that we started off talking about, to kind of circle back to that, is some of the function, because
Mhm.
We are, and I think too, this might be helpful. I don't know that, like, because I was an outsider coming into the industry, I was surprised, very surprised, that this at the estimator position, I was like, this is crazy that one person does all this shit, So not only do you have to be good with people, you have to be good with takeoffs,
And those two don't go together, by the way.
and
They're
then
two
you have to
different personality
also
profiles.
like
So
completely different.
you're describing a
So-
unicorn. They don't
Right.
exist.
And that is the standard
Right, I know.
position in a contracting business. So I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. But of course, at the early days, I just was trying to fucking figure it out. But
Right.
like, maybe like, so you have figured it out with J Carter Roofing and
Yeah.
JCR.
Yeah.
So, and so the thing that I was working towards, the thing that we should be working towards, I think you've kind of got it right. You've figured out the ingredients and the recipe. So can you maybe, like, going back to where
Certainly.
we started, like, so you start out like you did, you sell all the work, then you hire an estimator at some point, because you have more leads than you can physically go see. And then today you guys are doing, low 8 figures, have a great business, you make a lot of money. And what I think every contractor wants, or when they hear this will want. So help, like, let's bridge that. So from I do all the sales to,
Right.
and I'm hiring somebody, to where you are today, like,
Right.
there's a lot of stuff
So-
that happens in between. And I didn't get that one right, to be perfectly honest. So
Yeah. So again, if you're looking to expand, is probably what we should say. All right. And right now you're currently doing the estimating, the sales and everything. Here's what I suggest you do. Number one is you retain the closer position and you get better at it. Okay. You improve yourself, self-improve
when you
yourself.
say retain, you mean you do it yourself.
You do just closing, okay?
Just
Very
close, okay.
specifically. Until you can do that at a professional level, which is 40% closing ratio in my books, okay? And now these are no standards out there. But until you're consistently closing at 40% at a premium rate, all right? It's only then that you've earned that badge. And, once you've earned the badge, now you're prepared, or you're in a position to manage it, okay? Now, what I suggest that you do is that you take and you hire an in-house salesperson. And this in-house salesperson is like a junior to you. You're going to, they're going to be fluent with material types and, installation types. They're going to be, almost completely a salesperson, but they're not the closer. Okay. And what they're going to do is their job. And again, if you're smart about this, you start to develop people to come up into that position, into the closer position. But I've had the best success with taking somebody in-house and then training them what I need them to know, and having them basically run court for me so that I'm just showing up and closing deals. That's it. And my estimator, what I found out, again, what I found out over many, trials and errors is that you can't make the in-house salesperson or the appointment setter, whatever we want to call them, the personality type that's involved in sales does not blend well with estimating. It's a highly detailed, the person that does the estimating is going to be like your accountant. Yeah, like the one you want in that spot that enjoys numbers, enjoys just doing repetitive tasks and like doing the, being detailed is not your salesperson. It's the opposite.
Right.
So if you have a salesperson that you're requiring to do complicated measurements and stuff like that, you're setting yourself up and if you do find one that's good, that's still a danger. And it's what I can't explain to you guys enough is that it's you come across a unicorn, great, awesome. But too many businesses that I go into are as the result of somebody leaving and then them not having any way to replace that person. And I don't believe in that. I think that if you set it up so that there's, equal amount of responsibility on the right people, and you can spread that job over, a couple positions, either way, if something happens, you're able to replace them and you're able to move forward with little to no damage to the business.
So I want to ask you, Jay, because you have. I remember when you told me how you guys estimate jobs, and I was floored, and jealous at the same time because you guys use technology that most contractors aren't able to use because of the work that you do.
Right.
So, for people that aren't able to use satellites, which is all the rest of us, where you have to go out and walk off things and get your wheel or whatever. So how would you think, if you were going into a business that didn't have the tech that you guys have because of you're a roofer and because you're smart, how would you structure that? How would you take the estimator role and then divvy it up?
So again, it really is dependent on all business, but let's take a tile business, for example. Okay. Right. So in a tile business, again, they would have the same kind of square footage and measurements that we would have. So, that's a task and then that's a job. All right. I feel like, if your salesperson's out there doing that, I mean, and, for explanation purposes, they can do the quote. Then we should always be prepared to sell on the site. But that's not the way that most jobs go these days. What I'm finding is happening more often is that somebody can go out and, take the additional, measurements and everything else, but set an appointment with the owner to meet to discuss the quote. You want to have that face-to-face. You still that's still your highest conversion, best opportunity to close at a high ticket. You can't just send somebody a quote that's 2 times higher than everyone else and then with no explanation and expect to close deals. It's not going to work. Same thing is you can't, expect to go in high pressure someone while you're on site. There's got to be a balance between the two. So my recommendation to this is still have your in-house salespeople. They can still do measurements. They can do that's where they should be starting out with. And then there's somebody designated to have that personal one-to-one conversation with that, decision maker that's going to, close a deal and get a contract signed, right? There's that whole part of it. And I mean, yes, there can be totally different variations in it, depending on where you are in the market. You may not need a true closer. Lots of businesses, I'd say 80% of contractors that are out there are order takers. They don't require having to take their price point is at a point where they can just take orders. There is no competition. There's not objections or anything like that. So I just want to make myself clear. There's a very big difference between selling a premium, high value product at a high rate versus selling a commodity at a low volume.
So I think, and again, I'm going to make sure I'm understanding this. So it's so essentially, what you guys do is you separate the
estimating
part, the measurements, the takeoffs, all that, which is a completely different skill from the human interaction part. Because again, what I've found is you get one or the other, right?
Right.
You get the person who's great with the takeoffs, detailed, but a type B personality, right?
Right.
So not outgoing, more introverted, generally speaking. and they don't want to talk to customers.
That's
And
right.
so they
That's
avoid that
that's the
like the
opposite.
plague,
That's
and
right.
your closing ratio goes through the floor.
Right.
Or you get the type A personality, like me. It's like, yeah, hey, let's talk, let's hang out, let's connect.
Mhm.
And the measurements are dog shit, and you get fucking killed on the job because the type A personality doesn't give a fuck about measurements. They
Right.
don't care
Well,
about
or
field
the details,
takeoffs.
right? Like, no.
Yeah,
And
they're not good at it. Even if they
so,
want to be good at it, it's an acquired skill.
right. So the other solution to that, and ones that we've worked with other sales teams. So, for example, we worked with a landscaping company recently, where they have to go out and do hard measurements and stuff. Is that we completely systemized it so that the salesperson could go there very easily, push in the numbers, like everything
Yeah.
calculated out, and there, the chances of a mistake being made were lowered significantly. They
Right.
had a checklist. They
Yeah.
couldn't close out the estimate until these things were
Right.
covered. So that,
Yeah.
again, and that's a situation of plan and control in place. But don't, I see too many companies just, they hire someone. I've seen it in roofing and stuff where they
Yeah.
go out
Just
there and they
throw 'em
have
up.
no system. And
Right.
then, maybe even they're not putting in their stuff in a CRM, and it's a recipe for disaster. We really support our salespeople. Like, our salespeople don't do follow-ups. They don't do they just close deals. That's it.
Just sell.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all that I want them for. Now, that works for us. That's not going to work for everybody, right?
Right.
It's not going to be like, if my volume was lower, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't be
Well,
feasible,
of course. Right.
right?
I think, and that's kind of the point, is like,
Yeah.
so again, we were, the masonry business was at a place where I was kind of doing the same thing. I built a pricing system, and then it kind of became pricing and project management. And we started using Hover and different things to kind of like, limit the risk of people getting it wrong,
Mhm.
But again, that takes, that was a system. And
Right.
I mean, for me, I was kind of moving towards where, where you are today, where I had a junior, I thought of him as like a junior estimator, where I was training that person, and then they would do a lot of the takeoff stuff.
Yep.
And then I would check it.
That's
so I
right.
didn't have to do all the walking around and all the photos and all the
Yep.
things. So, I think that, and so again, for the contractor owners out there, that are, in a similar place to where I was and where Jay was at one point, where you're like, it's like you're selling a lot of work, and so you also running some of that work and whatever else, separating the detail, takeoff, measurement from the person, like connection, close, and some of those things, that's
It
kind of
has
what we're
a high
talking
measurable
about.
ROI. So
Yeah.
that's only when you can book more than, and I have the exact number. So when you're booking more
Okay.
than 3 to 4 qualified appointments a day, that's the
Okay.
time to bring in that role. Okay. Because
3 to 4 qualified
realistically,
appointments.
and that's pretty average across the board. In everything, including selling alarm systems. I see that number being kind of the status quo, 3, because if you think about it, a salesperson doing a proper sale can only really properly do 3 or 4 calls a day, right? But if you want to do that every single day, right, someone has to be doing the estimates. Somebody has to be helping out with it, right? So
Right. So let's talk about some of the, because we're doing some work around this, and this is kind of a part of our accelerator
Mhm.
program that we're working with, got people we're working with on. So so first of all, like when it comes to like our accelerator pro and what we're doing with some of the other clients right now,
Mhm.
you know how are we helping people with this challenge, right?
Okay, so there's 2 groups of people I can help specifically. One, if you're an owner looking to improve your sales skills, all right, that's role plays, that's system structures, like you want a sales manager to get better at it. Then the Sales Accelerator Pro program is perfect for you. We have a lot of people joining right now as we speak, and we're having role plays with other salespeople from other companies, which gives you a chance to work through objection handles and really, again, hone in on your sales skills personally.
Okay.
alternate to that, if you have a sales team and you're having some problems and you need specific help, you need sales playbook structure, SOPs, like it's gone beyond just you.
Right.
What we're able to do is on a custom plan, we come in, we'll help you organize your sales team. We'll put systems and structures in place. We do them for you. We don't, it just takes it right off your plate. We'll train your sales reps. We'll hire if we need to. A lot of times we do complete revamps or complete, replacements of teams if necessary.
Right.
In bad situations. And, we don't wish that upon anyone, but again, upskilling, things like that. We have a very sophisticated, well thought out program that, we help contractors really advance in that area. If that's what's holding them back, give us a shout. We'll book a call, see if it's a good fit. And then anybody that just wants to improve sales or wants to send their salespeople to our accelerator program, that's a good option too.
Yeah. So my final thought here is, again, if you're in that like one to, if you're between 2 and 3 million and moving, and you want to do more, or you're starting to get more leads and you can do more, that's where like I started separating. Like I was like, oh, we can't keep doing this the same way where one person does all this. It's too much. And again, the quality of the work goes down, meaning you don't close, you don't close. And you also, the quality of the estimates. I saw both of those, and that's a very expensive way to run a business.
Right.
So we can help with both of those things. We can help, help you change that, make that better. And, or for, folks that are doing even more than that, 5, 6, 7, and you want to, close more deals and whatever else.
Optimize,
like Jay,
even getting a better look on your sales team. It's important.
I'm just going to really quickly, Jay. So like, final, but like, exactly how many leads. Didn't one of your salespeople come to you like in the last couple months or like within the last year, I remember, and they were like, I want more leads. And you're like, you can't take more leads.
That's right.
You literally, there's so many, right?
Yep, exactly.
Like
I know exactly the number of leads that yes, I do. And that's being a longtime sales manager and our systems, right? So that's, every business at that scale requires it. It's not an option. If you want to run a high level sales team and you can't do that, then you need to get some help so you can.
First of all, I'm not shitting on your salesperson. Credit to them for wanting to take on more, right?
Right.
That's exactly what you want. But you being a data-driven, owner,
that's right,
operator, we're like, but I know you. If I give you more, you're still going to close the same amount.
Your sales closing ratio will go down. That's right.
Right. So, one example of of some of the experience that we're bringing to the table when it comes to sales and closing and improving closing ratios, which is how many contracts and so on and so forth. So all right, folks, so thanks for being with us today. Jay and I are here every Friday 3 p.m. Eastern time, and I am also live Mondays at noon, sharing some of how I use these same principles in a mason restoration business to turn that thing around and do some really cool things. And then Jay is live on Thursdays at 3:00, where he is literally just, sometimes he goes live with a customer, with one of our clients. Sometimes he's going live, like literally just like laying out the playbook for these same things that we're talking about and just showing you how to do it. So, check out any of those things, all the, whatever you think is going to help you. And, if we can help, of course, reach out and, we'll book a call and, do everything we can to help you. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks.